The dreadnought hung above the pale rim world like a blade of black glass. Its hull was smooth and silent, and its lights were cold and distant, like stars that did not care. Inside, the air was dry, the corridors were wide, and every line and symbol had the neat, exact order of the Zalari Dominion. Commander Talira walked these corridors with her chin lifted and her steps steady. Her armor plates fit her like a second skin. Her mind was sharp and exact. She believed in rules and measures. She believed in clean systems that never failed. She believed in strength that did not bend. She did not believe in humans. To her people, pain was a fault in design. The proper way to live was to remove it, avoid it, or cover it with machines. The Dominion taught this from birth. It was simple. Pain wastes energy, and energy must be pure. The Zalari way was to control, to cut away weakness, to keep the machine clean. So when the Earth envoy arrived, Talira felt nothing but a cool, clear distance. She was hosting a meeting on her ship as a sign of goodwill. Yes. She was loyal to orders. Yes. But goodwill did not make humans equal. Not in her mind. She met the envoy in the receiving hall. Two human officers in neat black uniforms with silver lines on the shoulders. They stood tall. They tried to look calm. Talira saw their eyes move to the high curve of the ceiling, to the shining discs of the drones that floated in the air like metal birds, to the wide, polished floor that reflected their boots. Her aide spoke first, voice clipped and formal. "Welcome, Earth Envoy. The commander extends the Dominion's regards." The lead human stepped forward. He was dark-haired, with a watchful gaze. His face was plain. His voice was steady. "Lieutenant Marcus Hale," he said. He nodded toward the woman at his side. "Envoy Officer Camila Ortiz, thank you for hosting us, Commander." Talira did not smile. Zalari did not show warmth on their faces. "You are aboard the dreadnought Vathra," she said. "You will be safe if you follow our rules." It was not a threat. It was a fact. The humans signed the standard entry log. The meeting began hours later in a small chamber with a long, low table. The topic was a patrol border between the Dominion and Earth's new settlements. The words were careful and slow. The envoy had brought maps. They had brought data. They spoke in terms of supply lines and rescue corridors and simple space lanes for weak civilian ships. Talira watched them without blinking. Pain, she knew, drove human decisions. Fear of loss, fear of damage. They wanted safer routes because they were afraid. She marked this and set it aside. Fear could be managed. Fear could be used. The meeting ended late. The dreadnought's lights dimmed. The Vathra shifted into night cycle, and a cool stillness spread through the ship. TAH Lyra stood, ready to dismiss the delegation to their quarters. That was when the lights flickered. The floor hummed in a long, soft tone, like a string pulled tight, then released. Her wrist display snapped with a warning code. The air stung with a faint metallic taste. "Commander?" her aide said. "Report," Talira replied. "Reactor modulation spike," came the voice from shipwide. Calm, clipped, controlled. "Containment is stable. Power systems entering protective cascade." "Meaning?" Marcus Hale asked, quiet but alert. "Meaning we are reducing systems for safety," Talira said. "Lights? Heat? Non-essential power?" "It will be brief." "Understood," he said. "It was supposed to be brief." It was not. Minutes later, a new code flashed on Talira's display. A second hum rolled through the ship, deeper this time. She felt it in the plates of her armor. She saw her aide swallow. "Containment holds," the ship reported again. "But power will remain limited until we clear the modulation sequence." Estimated. Unknown. Thermal regulation is offline on Deck 7 through Deck 10. Humans' quarters were on Deck 9. Talira made her choice quickly. To move the humans to another deck, she would need to clear security checks, open sealed doors, and drain energy. That would put stress on the grid. Or she could keep them where they were and assign a guard. Safer for the ship. Less pleasant for the guests? The envoy will remain in place, she said. I will inspect the conditions myself. Her aide nodded, tense. Talira moved. The corridors were dim now. The lights were thinned, as if a veil had been drawn in front of them. Air still moved, but it was cooler, and the hum of the climate systems was faint. She passed a crew node where 2 engineers worked at an interface. They did not look up. They knew better. At the human's door, she lifted her wrist and keyed the panel. It slid open. The room inside was small by Zalari standards, but large enough for human comfort. There were 2 low beds, a climate field projector on the wall, a carafe of water, and a dustless floor. The air felt colder than the hall. Marcus Hale stood by the panel, hands behind his back. He had taken off his jacket. A thin layer of frost had formed along the ceiling vent. His breath made a pale cloud. "Commander," he said. "We were about to ask for a status update. You have it?" she said. "This section's heat is reduced. The climate field should compensate." He glanced at the projector. "It tried," he said, "but then it failed to power." Talira stepped closer and ran a check. The projector's indicator blinked a single blue dot, dimmer than it should be. Not dead, but not enough. She sent a ping to maintenance and saw at once the backlog, 17 requests across half the ship. She did not like seeing lines of red. "You will be provided with a thermal field unit," she said. "Portable. It can cover 1 body at a time. You may rotate." Marcus Hale's eyes flicked to his partner, Camila Ortiz. Ortiz had wrapped herself in a blanket and sat on one of the beds, shoulders tight. She was trying to hide her shivers with a joke, but the joke did not reach her eyes. "That would help," Hale said. "Thank you." Talira made the call. A drone arrived 2 minutes later, a small round disc with 4 quiet fans carrying a thermal unit like a folded cloth. It hovered in and settled the unit onto a bed. The drone paused long enough to scan the room and then drifted out. "You will be checked every hour," Talira said. "Keep your clothes on. Use layers. The unit will conserve energy if it is not moved often." "Noted," Hale said. Talira turned to go. She hesitated. It was an uncommon feeling. Her duty was to ensure the safety of the guests. She had done so. And yet she felt a thin thread tying her back to the room. It was not warmth. It was an idea still not formed, that she did not like. She stepped into the hall and paused outside the door for a count of 5. Her display showed internal temperatures falling another point. She imagined the cold air sliding over skin. She thought of energy budgets and thermal mapping. And then she did a thing she would later try to explain to herself. She returned. "You will move to a safer compartment," she said. Hale looked up, puzzled. "We can manage," he said. "We don't want to strain your systems. Your safety is my responsibility," Talira said, and the words sounded louder in her own head than in the room. "Come," but the ship chose that moment to make the decision for them. The corridor lights dimmed further. The panel at the door blinked and then held static. A quiet chime pulsed, slow and soft. "Lock down," Talira said, annoyed now. Deck seals engaged to contain the modulation ripple. "So, we're staying," Ortiz said, trying for a smile. Talira tapped her display. The seal would open with her command, but opening it would trigger a power surge. If the modulation pattern amplified, it could damage the grid and turn a controlled problem into a dangerous one. Risk, waste, disorder. "We are staying," Talira said. She put a hand on the wall. The cold was climbing now. It was not painful to her yet, but Zalari bodies lost heat fast in dry air. Her armor helped, but it was not made for long exposure to freezing temperatures. She knew the numbers. She recited them without emotion. "The numbers were not good. You can take the thermal field," Hale said, standing. "We'll keep moving and keep heat up." Talira blinked. It was an odd offer. The unit was theirs. A guest choosing to give up comfort was not in her charts. "You need it," she said. "So do you," he replied. A human offering help to an officer on her own ship because he thought she would not admit need. She felt heat in her chest that had nothing to do with the climate. Pride, she told herself. It was pride rejecting pity. I do not require it, she said. She did not move. Hale set the unit aside. It's not pity, he said. His voice was gentle, but there was a steel thread in it. It's a good use of resources. You run this ship. You should stay sharp. Talira looked at him. He met her gaze without defiance, without fear. It was strange, she thought, how often humans were called emotional when his voice was so even, his face so calm. But the tremble in his hands had begun. It was small, but she saw it. She saw all of it. Keep your layers, she said. Move as needed. We will take turns with the field. Hale nodded once. Ortiz rolled to her side and pulled the blanket tight, hands tucked under her arms. The little room was quiet except for the soft hiss of air and the slow pulse of the hallway chime beyond the door. Talira took the other bed and sat. She did not lie down. Zelari did not like to lie down in unfamiliar rooms. She rested with her back straight and her legs together, like a statue. Time slid. The cold tried to creep in with soft steps, inch by inch. Talira watched it at work. Frost crystals formed along the vent in thin lines like white writing. The metal edge of the table turned pale. The air tasted sharper, as if it had fragments in it. Hale stood and stretched, then moved slowly around the room. The dreadnought woke slowly, like a beast shaking frost from its back. Deck Nine's vents whispered warm air through the halls, and the metal walls no longer felt like ice beneath the hand. Emergency lights faded into a clean, steady white. Systems hummed again with purpose. But inside Commander Talira, something else stirred. She had shared a thermal field with a human. She had accepted warmth, not from a machine, but from flesh. It was not a detail she liked. It was not a story she would ever tell. Yet it lingered in her mind, quiet and sharp. She told herself it was irrelevant. She was Zelari, commander of the dreadnought Vathra. She obeyed the Dominion. She did not let strange nights shape her. But as she walked the corridors, boots clicking against the polished floor, she could still feel the memory of that thin heat between two beating hearts. Humans were supposed to be weak. But weakness did not look like Marcus Hale shivering in silence, holding the line with calm eyes. Talira arrived at the command deck as the night cycle ended. Her second in command, a tall officer with silver armor plates, met her with a crisp bow. Commander, containment systems are stable. Reactor modulation has ended. The ship is fully operational again. Casualties? She asked. None, the officer said. Minimal frost damage on lower decks? All crew accounted for. Envoy quarters reports stable? Talira gave a small nod. That last line was what she had wanted to hear, even if she would not admit it. Begin standard readiness checks, she ordered. We resume the schedule. And clear the lockdown logs. Yes, Commander. Load. The crew moved in neat lines. Every motion was controlled. Every screen displayed order. But beneath the surface, Talira felt something else pressing against the edges of her clean command world, a question she had no words for yet. Later that day, the humans stood again at the negotiation table. The meeting room was bright now, warm and steady. The frost was gone. Lieutenant Marcus Hale wore his black uniform again, every line sharp, every movement quiet. His partner, Officer Ortiz, still looked tired but smiled easily. If someone had told Talira the night before that this human would spend hours in freezing cold and then walk into the next meeting as if nothing happened, she would have dismissed it as human drama. But she had been there. She had watched him. She had felt the heat of his skin under the field. And now she could not dismiss it. Commander Hale said, giving a polite nod. I trust your systems are stable now. They are, she replied. The incident has not affected operational integrity. Good to hear, Ortiz said, her voice brighter. It was an interesting night. Talira didn't reply. She was not used to discussing discomfort. But when Hale looked at her, there was a flicker in his eyes. Not mockery, not weakness. Just quiet acknowledgement. It unsettled her more than she expected. The meeting began with border coordinates. Humans wanted safe zones for their civilian convoys. The Dominion wanted strict control of those routes. Hale spoke clearly with calm logic. Ortiz added details, pointing at projections with a light pen. Talera argued with the cold precision of Dominion law. Her voice did not rise. Her hands did not move. She made her case like a blade cutting along a line. But as the hours passed, she began to notice something. Hale was not trying to win. He was trying to build. His suggestions were designed to protect not only humans, but to avoid conflict with the Dominion too. He was not soft. He was careful. When she challenged him sharply on one clause, he didn't flinch or mirror her coldness. He listened. He answered with reason. And when Ortiz made a mistake on a projected line, he simply corrected it without blame. Zalari officers would have barked at such errors. Humans. Absorbed them. Adapted. She didn't like that it impressed her. The calm didn't last long. Midway through the second hour, a harsh alarm ripped through the room. A deep red light bathed the ceiling. Talera's wrist display came alive with flashing lines. "Commander," her aide's voice crackled through. "We have a proximity breach. Unknown vessel on long-range sensors. It's fast." Hole straightened immediately. "Pirates." "Unlikely," Talera answered. "Pirates would not approach a Dominion dreadnought." "Then who?" Ortiz asked, her voice sharp now. Talera didn't reply. Her boots struck the floor like gunshots as she left the room. Hale and Ortiz followed without needing to be told. On the command deck, the holographic sphere above the navigation table flickered with red threads. An object was moving fast through the black. The sensor tech snapped to attention. Unknown craft approaching at high velocity, no Dominion ID. Its trajectory intersects directly with our position. "Time to contact?" Talera asked. 16 minutes. "Raise shields," she ordered. "Full power. Ready interceptors." The crew moved like one body. Alarms pulsed steady. Lights shifted to combat red. The calm order of the ship was replaced with a clean, sharp readiness that the Dominion perfected through centuries of discipline. Hale and Ortiz stayed at the back of the deck. They were guests, but they watched everything. Hale's eyes moved like he was recording each decision. At 12 minutes, the ship locked visual. The craft was sleek, jagged, not Dominion, not Earth. Talera recognized the pattern. Raiders. Nomadic scavengers from the edge systems. Dangerous. Unpredictable. They usually attacked weak transport ships. For them to target a dreadnought was strange. For them to not turn away when the dreadnought raised shields was worse. "Signal them," she said. No response. "Prepare main batteries," she ordered. Her gunnery officer's voice was flat. "Ready." But then another alert blinked. The raiders weren't just approaching, they were broadcasting a scatter pulse. It wasn't a normal attack. It was a jammer. The Comstech paled. "They're trying to blind our navigation systems." "Impossible," Ortiz whispered. "No," Hale said, low. "Smart." The jammer pulse hit the dreadnought like a silent wave. Some displays flickered. Some sensors blinked out. A Dominion dreadnought could handle this, but if enough systems lagged for even 2 minutes, the raiders could punch through with torpedoes before shields fully calibrated. "They are trying to cut your eyes," Hal said. He was not wrong. "Commander," her second-in-command said tightly, "we can fire blindly but risk damage." Talera didn't answer right away. She was calculating. If she fired now, she might miss. If she waited too long, the raiders would get too close. "Shut down their signal source," she ordered. "Deploy decoy drones." "Jammer strength is increasing," the tech shouted. "Interference at 60%. She could feel it. The precision of the Dominion machine beginning to bend under the pressure. And then, unexpectedly, Hallie stepped forward. "You're reacting to them," he said steadily. "Stop reacting." The command deck turned to him. A human speaking on a Dominion bridge would normally be ignored or silenced. Talera, however, didn't silence him. She was too busy watching his eyes. "They're forcing your machine to fight their chaos," Hale continued. "That's what raiders do. You have to become unpredictable to cut through the noise." "Unpredictable is not how Dominion fights," Talera said coldly. "It's how we survive," Hal replied. "Let me help." His voice wasn't pleading. It wasn't arrogant. It was solid, like stone pressed against steel. Talira hesitated for a heartbeat. Zilari doctrine said, never let outsiders influence command. Human logic said, trust skill, not origin. Speak, she said. Feed your gunners false coordinates, Hale said. Scatter your drones unevenly. Make your formation look broken. Raiders hunt weakness. When they dive to strike what they think is your soft spot, you hit them with everything. Her second-in-command hissed softly. Commander, this is not regulation. No, Talira said slowly. It is not. But she remembered the cold. She remembered his calm voice, while frost crept through metal. She remembered how he didn't flinch. That memory weighed more than the rulebook. Do it, she ordered. The drones scattered. Not in the neat Zellery diamond pattern, but in broken clusters, like prey that had lost formation. On the Raider's sensors, the dreadnought now looked like a ship struggling to maintain control. They bit the bait. Multiple ships peeling off formation? The sensor tech shouted. They're diving in on our weak sector. Now, Talira said. The gunners fired. The dreadnought's batteries flared like stars being born. The first Raider ship cracked in half. The second spun out of control, shredded by a drone swarm that attacked from behind. The jammer signal faltered. Jammer down to 20%, the tech said. Keep pressure, Talira snapped. For the first time in the fight, the Vathro was not reacting. It was hunting. Minutes later, it was over. 3 Raider ships destroyed. 2 fled into the black. The dreadnought floated steady again, its lights burning bright against the dark. The crew moved through quiet post-battle reports. Hale stood at the back, arms crossed. He did not gloat. He simply nodded once when Talira turned toward him. Your tactics were unconventional, she said. They were human, he answered. Talira stared at him. For years, she had believed humans were too emotional, too unstable, too soft. Yet it was this soft species that had seen the Raiders' trap for what it was. This soft species had broken the pattern. You used unpredictability as a weapon, she said. He tilted his head slightly. Pain teaches us that clean plans don't survive the real world, so we adapt. That's what humans do best. After the battle, the dreadnought's halls were quiet again. Most of the crew returned. The stars beyond the dreadnought's viewport were sharp and cold, like distant watchers. Vathra drifted in steady silence after the Raider attack, its hull gleaming faintly under scattered starlight. On the command deck, every system hummed in perfect balance again. But inside Commander Talira, nothing was perfectly balanced anymore. For years she had lived inside the clean logic of Dominion's strength, precision, order, and control. It was the only way. Weakness was a crack. Cracks destroyed ships. Cracks ended lives. Humans were supposed to be cracks. Yet they were the reason the ship still floated unbroken. Talira stood at the viewing window, her reflection faint in the glass. Behind her, the quiet echo of boots announced the arrival of Lieutenant Marcus Hale. You always stand here after a fight? He asked calmly. I stand here to think, she answered without turning. To measure what remains. Hale stepped closer, but not too close. And what remains now? She watched the stars. Victory, she said. And questions, smiled faintly. Those often come together. Her hands rested on the metal rail, fingers curling slightly. You saved this ship, he said simply. You made the call. I just gave you a different way to look at the problem. Talira turned her head to look at him then. She searched for arrogance or pride, something she could push against. But all she saw was quiet strength, the kind that didn't need to shout. You speak of pain as if it were familiar, she said. It is, he replied. Humans grow up with it. Sometimes it comes early, sometimes later, but we all meet it one way or another. Zalari learned to erase it, she said. Hale gave a small nod. Maybe that's why we're so different. You build walls to keep pain out. We build scars to keep moving through it. She looked at the stars again. For the first time, she didn't have a clean reply. 3 hours later, alarms shattered the quiet. The lights turned red. The ship trembled. Talera's cum lit up like a storm. Commander, her second-in-command, barked. Multiple energy spikes detected near the jump gate. It's not raiders this time. It's big. She was already running. On the command deck, the main holodisplay showed a growing shape, massive, angular, and familiar. It wasn't the random chaos of raiders. This was organized. This was Dominion-sized. But it wasn't Dominion. Identify, Talera snapped. The tech's hands flew across the console. Unknown battle carrier. Design matches Outer Rim war clans. Estimated size 3 times larger than the raider ships combined. A hush spread across the deck. Even Dominion crews rarely faced war clans directly. These weren't scavengers. They were conquerors. Communications? She asked. No response, the tech said. They're powering weapons. Talera's jaw tightened. This wasn't a negotiation anymore. This was a storm. She issued the first orders like a blade through glass. Shields. To maximum. All weapons hot. Evacuate lower decks to combat positions. The crew moved like a machine, sharp and fast. The Vathra was strong. She could see it already in the numbers. If the enemy committed to a direct assault, this would not be a clean victory. Hale and Ortiz arrived on the deck moments later. Ortiz looked tense, but Hale's face was steady, his eyes scanning the battlefield. This isn't like the raiders, he said quietly. No, Talera replied. They know how to fight. And they're bigger, he added. She didn't deny it. The enemy carrier opened fire first. Blue-white plasma lances cut through the void like burning spears. Vathra's shields flared bright and held, but the impact shook the decks. The sound of stress rolled through the ship like thunder. Shields at 92%, the tactical officer called out. Secondary batteries returning fire. Keep formation, Talera ordered. The dreadnought fired back, streams of focused energy tearing through the black. 2 smaller enemy escorts were hit and tumbled away, but the carrier did not slow. Ortiz braced herself against the railing. They're just walking through it. They have heavier plating, Hale said. They're testing you. Alida shot him a glance. He wasn't wrong. The second volley came harder. Shields dropped to 78%. Crew chatter filled the air. On the lower decks, bulkheads screamed as pressure adjusted. For the first time in years, Talera felt something dangerous whisper at the edge of her mind. Not fear, but doubt. Minutes stretched like wire. Dominion doctrine said to hold position. Let the machine outlast the storm. But this storm wasn't meant to be outlasted. It was meant to crush. Her crew was good. Her ship was strong. But the enemy carrier was bigger, older, hungrier. She clenched her fists. Commander, her second-in-command said, voice tight. If they breach again, I know. She cut him off. And then Hale stepped closer again. Just like before. They're expecting you to fight like a Dominion ship, he said quietly, his voice steady in the noise. Strong, predictable, slow. Talera narrowed her eyes. You're suggesting chaos again? I'm suggesting you stop letting them choose the shape of the fight. She wanted to say no, to shut him out. But then she remembered the raiders. She remembered Frost on the ceiling, his voice steady through pain. And she remembered winning. Speak, she said. They're locked onto your core, he said. But if we give them something else, something crazy enough to look like a mistake, they'll lunge for it. You want me to act weak? She said, not liking the words. I want you to act human, he answered. A plan formed like fire catching dry air. They dimmed the main power core signature and sent false energy bursts to the aft section. To the enemy, it would look like a reactor bleed, a perfect target. They will believe they can break us, Talera said. Good Hal replied. Let them. The crew watched her with wide eyes. It wasn't Dominion procedure. It wasn't clean or precise. It was a risk. But she gave the order anyway. Prepare all torpedo tubes, she commanded. Target the carrier's underside when they dive. Daganas nodded, unsure but loyal. The trap was set. The enemy took the bait. Sensors flared. Their massive carrier shifted its angle and surged forward, its main cannons glowing like suns. Impact in 30 seconds, the tech called. "Hold," Talira said. The crew held its breath. The ship trembled. The enemy was close, now too close. 15 seconds. Hale stood beside her, his posture calm. She didn't ask why he wasn't afraid. She already knew. 10 Ortiz squeezed the railing until her knuckles turned white. 5. The enemy carrier roared forward, opening its belly to fire. Talira raised her hand. Now, the Vathra turned its guns like a beast bearing hidden fangs. Torpedo tubes fired all at once, a storm of light against the black. The false signature blinked out. The carrier, moving too fast to adjust, exposed its underbelly at the worst possible moment. The first volley punched through its shields. The second ripped into its main drive. The enemy ship shook, lights flashing in a chaotic storm. And then, with a sound that was more felt than heard, a chain reaction ripped through its lower decks. A sun bloomed where a monster had been. The shockwave rolled over the dreadnought. Shields flared, groaned, but held. The enemy carrier split into 2 burning halves, drifting into the void like dying stars. "Target destroyed," the sensor tech whispered. For a long moment, no one on the command deck spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of surviving systems. Then someone exhaled. Ortiz laughed weakly, and the crew erupted in cheers. Talira stood still. Her heart pounded beneath her armor. She had gambled the entire ship on a human tactic, on chaos, on trust, and it had worked. She looked at Hale. He didn't smile wide or raise his hands like a hero. He just nodded, as if it was the most natural thing in the world to face death with calm eyes. "Good call," he said quietly. "You gave me the call," she answered. "No," he said. "You made it." She didn't argue. She didn't have to. Hours later, the dreadnought was quiet again. Crew moved through post-battle routines. Damaged sections were sealed, energy cells stabilized, and the ship drifted in calm space once more. In the med bay, injured crew members received care. On the bridge, a line of commendations was already being written. And in the observation room, Talira stood alone until Hale entered, as if he belonged there. "You've changed," he said lightly. She gave him a sharp look. "Commanders do not change overnight." "Maybe not overnight," he said. "But maybe over one very cold night. And 2 battles." She almost laughed. "Almost. You think too much of humans," she said. "No," he said simply. "I just know what we can be." She stared at the stars again. "Pain still seems like a useless burden." He shook his head. "Pain is proof we're still fighting. We don't run from it. We build with it." "You saw it on the battlefield today." She was silent. But the silence wasn't denial anymore. It was thought, deep, quiet thought. "You call pain proof," she said slowly. "Zelari call it weakness." "Maybe that's why humans surprise people," he replied. "We turn what others fear into something we use." The next day, as the envoy prepared to leave the Vathra, the crew lined the docking corridor in silent respect. It was not required. No Dominion order had been given, but they were there because they had seen him. They had seen a human give their commander an idea that saved their lives. Talira walked alongside Marcus Hale toward the airlock. Her boots made soft sounds against the floor. His steps matched hers. "You are different from how I thought your kind would be," she admitted finally. He smiled. "You're different from how we thought your kind would be too."